Hello and welcome, and thanks for joining us. And Kris, introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, I am Kris Bryant, and I live in Kansas City, Missouri, where I have a beautiful dog, Molly, and I write books, contemporary romance for BSB.
What's your latest book?
Oh, my latest book is Scent. It's the fourth in my sensory series, standalone, but it's the fourth of the senses that I've written so far.
All I see is chocolate. I want chocolate.
Yeah, makes you hungry, that cover.
Amanda, tell us about yourself.
I'm new to BSB, but not new to writing. I write sapphic romance and occasionally mystery. I've published more than 20 books, I think, but I can never remember. My book that's coming out with BSB, my first book with BSB is Detour to Love, and will be out in February sometime. You can pre-order it now on the BSB web store.
I like that cover too. It's very good.
Yeah, your covers are good.
Thank you. I designed them myself.
Awesome.
Thank you. I have to get it out there every time I can.
Well, hell yeah. So I'm Carsen Taite. I write contemporary romance, but primarily romantic suspense. And my February release is Spirit of the Law. And this blonde woman is a little apprehensive, maybe. It's a little different for me. That has a lawyer, surprise everyone, and a prosecutor, and she is forced to work with a psychic medium on a murder case, and she's not really a big believer in that, things she can't see. And so it's, kind of a built-in conflict, but there is romance and happily ever after and hijinks along the way. So I brought this envelope, which is secret author questions.
Ooh.
Soon to not be secret. And I was told to put them in a hat, that we would want to draw out of a hat. So just so you know, this is my Hillary Clinton hat. I just felt like nowadays, she's so right about so many things she predicted. I wanted to give her a little shout out.
I thought we requested a top hat.
I know you did. And if it wasn't a pandemic, I would have a top hat for you. But
okay, that's a good excuse.
Restricted in my ability to find a top hat, but it is now my quest.
Yeah.
For next time.
I'm sure there's one on Amazon, although it'll probably be this big.
Exactly. Reviews. It did not fit. Yes, Amanda does have the best accent ever, and this is an episode of Bridgerton. I
haven't seen it. Do I need to watch it?
It's
yeah,
really
you need to watch it. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone, but it's kind of a Regency romance meets Gossip Girl.
Okay.
With a great soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack is fantastic. It's all like modern songs set to symphony.
That's great.
Symphony arrangements. And it's just fun and delicious. And yeah,
because the start of last year I spent watching Tiger King on Netflix, and I'd like to sort of level up from that if possible. It wasn't a good start.
That's not hard to do.
Okay, good. Because that was the last thing everyone was like, you must watch this. And I sort of sat there and went, let's give this a try.
You're like,
it's an interesting country.
You're like, Americans.
Never going there.
I go there a lot, never see this.
So do y'all want to ask a question? I mean, do y'all want to draw a question?
Yeah.
Sure, let's draw a question.
Okay, Kris, why don't you reach into the hat and draw a question? Okay. Well, look.
Okay.
Oh, look at the question you drew.
By the magic of Zoom.
Yeah, right. What is your writing kryptonite? Do you know what kryptonite is? Do you watch Superman?
I do. I know what it is. I mean, I don't know what my writing kryptonite is, but I would say TV, but that's not true because I have the TV on all the time. Maybe if I really like Bridgerton, I binge watch that like in a day. I watched the whole series in a day. So maybe Netflix shows that are binge worthy, worth it. Probably that. It takes me away from writing all the time.
Okay. I can certainly buy in on that. Amanda, how about you?
I think other ideas to what I'm currently working on is my kryptonite. I have a schedule of what I should be writing, and I always think of another idea, and I have to fight with myself to make sure I stay on the current idea, because I know the only reason I've come up with another idea is because I want to sabotage myself. So
or get on a book schedule now that you're
I reward myself and I don't let it come through. I let the idea, I put it to the side until I get a certain amount of words written or to a certain point, and then I allow to dabble into the other idea.
Oh no, I have to finish things because I forget. I mean, the second I finished a book, I mean, I've written sort of about 20 books back to back. The second I finished a book, that's gone. So when my editor comes back and they say, so this character and this character, I have no idea who those people are anymore. And I'm like, sorry, who? And when I'm at a book event, one of my characters goes, I really love, and then they tell me the name, and I'm going, oh, thank you. And in the back of my head, I'm going, who on earth is that? What book is that? What's the plot? I can't remember any of it. So I have to work in order. So the second I'm starting something, my brain's going, how about this and this and this and this and this and this? And I just have to write some notes, and I have to focus on that, and I have to finish that before and then by the time I finished it, I didn't want to write any of those things anyway, because again, I was trying to sabotage myself.
I can totally relate to the not remembering who these people are.
I have no idea.
I keep a notebook that has the main character names of all 27 of the books, and for two reasons. One, so I can remember who they are, and two, so that I don't use those names again.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's funny. I remember years ago, I used to like read the back of someone's book, read the blurb and think, what crazy names? And now I'm like, okay, I need some crazy names because I've used them all. I'm like, okay, Sarah, Claire, Kate, they're all done.
I tend to use the same names over and over again. And maybe it's because I write in first person, because the name never really comes up.
Oh, yeah.
But I have had Jennifer in almost every book, Jennifer, and it's just a name to me. It's one of those where, okay, I need a secondary character name, or even, somebody even not even a secondary character. But I have used Jennifer a lot, and people have told me, hey, there must be a famous Jennifer in your life because you use her a lot. And I'm like, really? And sure enough, I have a Jennifer in my next book.
My first self-published book, I sent it off to my editor, and when she sent it back, she's like, every secondary male character is called David. Did you know that? No, there was 5 of them. There were 5 different Davids, because literally I went, I need a name, David, and I carried on writing. And I was like, oh, now there are still 2 Davids in that, because I actually couldn't come up with too many more names, and I was like, this is ridiculous, and I should just punish myself forever. But yeah, I couldn't, and now I have to keep that list. And I also, if I ever see like a name, like if I go somewhere where there's gonna be like a lot of names and stuff, like if I go to the zoo or something, there's lots of people with name badges on, I just kind of like mentally remember their names, write them all down, and then I can use them later.
Years ago, Ashley Bartlett used to beta read for me, and she brought me this high school yearbook from 1978 for some random high school in California. She said,
that's awesome.
Maybe you should start picking some names. You keep using the same names over and over. So I'm just going to leaf through this yearbook.
That's great.
That is the nicest diss from an editor I've ever heard.
All right. I think we found it like on the side of the road.
A thrift store. Now, Ashley's my editor, and it's funny because this is one of my favorite stories. When I wrote Taste, I had, she doesn't like it when I have main characters with the same initial, like if they all start with S, she wants me to switch it up. And so I had a waitress in Taste, and I forgot what I originally came up with. And so she's like, you need to change his name. And she gave me this whole rundown. Like, it was this huge thing. And Ashley, she doesn't talk a whole lot, but what she says is very important. So I changed the name to Ashley. And so and her wife said it was the best. She loves that story. It's like her favorite. I actually kind of got back at Ashley. So this last time, same thing happened. She's like, okay, you need to change this name. So I changed it to Ashley, but I changed the spelling of Ashley. So I'm sure she's going to tear it up, but that's okay. It's kind of fun. We have fun with names.
So we have an audience question.
Ooh.
As opposed to a hat question.
Ooh.
Oh, this one's for you, Amanda. Okay, so many of us have been reading Amanda's self-published books for years. What drew you to publishing with Bold Strokes Books? And I'm pretty sure the answer is me and Kris.
Right.
Yeah, it was the anticipation of this moment, knowing that I'd one day be on an author chat with you two. But secondary to that was basically, I love self-publishing and I think it's a great thing, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I wanted to have time to grow as an author. I wanted to be able to learn more, and I wanted to be able to spend a bit more time on each book. So I decided to go to, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here with you two, I wanted to go to who I deem to be the best publishing house. And I do things quite randomly sometimes. I just emailed the submissions window and said, hi, here's who I am. Would you be interested in maybe publishing one of my books? And Rad was very kind. And yeah, I think 3 weeks later I signed a contract. So yeah, it was just the right time for me, basically. I wanted to go back into a publishing house. I've been published before, and I just wanted to go back into a publishing house because I wanted to have a bit more time and have people who I could trust working on the projects for me.
Well, we're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And in honor of that, you may now draw from the hat.
Thank you.
Hold it up here. Okay. And I think you drew a good one. I have no idea. Oh, this kind of riffs off this. So what other authors are you friends with, and how did they help you become a better writer?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, mine are all UK authors. I don't know very many US authors. I know a few. In person, I've met Claire Hyton Stevenson, Melissa Therese, Kiki Archer when she was writing, Tig Ashton, Claire Lydon, Harper Bliss. I think we all met, we've all met various times, but we had an event here called ELCON quite a while ago in the UK in 2018. Yes. And we kind of, and Jay as well, obviously. It was very interesting because we kind of all likened ourselves to all being authors who work together in sort of author HQ building, and we might work on different floors, but we all work for the same basic company. And it was just nice to sort of be able to talk to each other. And I think sort of from my self-published authors, hearing about, marketing strategies and things like that, working together on short story anthologies and things like that. We did a charity anthology a while ago. That was fun. It's really good to sort of be working with each other, and then just generally talking to authors. Basically, sort of, there are so many ways to write, and there are so many ways to be a writer. And I think it's really interesting to hear how everybody goes about doing that, and realizing that. I remember when I first started, people were like, you need to read as much as possible. If you don't read, you can't write, and I don't do that. I am terrible at reading. If I have time, I will write. I won't read. I was thinking, I'll never be an author. And then I started selling books, and people started to like my stories. I was like, oh, maybe it's not like that. And the more authors I spoke to, the more I found out that everyone has a completely different way, a different process of sort of attacking their next project. And that was really interesting, because sometimes you can pick things up from people and think like, oh, I'll try that and see if that one works for me. So yeah, just the differences and the similarities, sort of, having discussions with people and finding out what they do and how they do it, because it's a very unique business.
Definitely. Kris, how about you?
Everything that Amanda said, and could you please repeat the question?
No, I cannot.
Because you just dropped it back in the hat.
I just put it back. What other authors are you friends with, and how do they help you become a better writer?
Gotcha.
So, and we'll just preface this by saying everyone's not going to be able to name all their friends.
Right, right. That's true. For sure, when I first started, I didn't know anybody at all. I did not know a single person. I showed up in P-Town. I only ever talked to Ashley, my editor, because she's the only person I ever talked to, because I didn't know anybody. So she had a few people kind of find me in P-Town and get to know me. And so that was nice. It's amazing how quickly my group of friends grew, and the family that you make when you're with a publishing company, and or when you're even like at GCLS, when you get together, you get to meet all the other writers that you admire, or just have friendly banter with on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So and then also I do a lot of writing dates. I do, and that really helps me out writing. It keeps me on track. Somebody will, like Fiona Riley, she's real good at texting me and saying, hey, let's do a sprint. Are you ready for a sprint? I do writing dates with KB Draper. It's just, this is the world that I belong to, and I love it. And it took me a while to find it, but having so many friends and people to reach out to if I need help, it's great.
So tell me about a writing date.
A writing date. Okay, so
does someone bring flowers and candy?
Usually there is a meal that's purchased by somebody else, usually. It's almost always coffee and maybe breakfast. KB Draper and I, back pre-COVID, we used to go to, there was like 3 or 4 different coffee houses that we'd go to, and we'd write from like 8 in the morning until noon. And we just sit there and write and just kind of feed off of each other. Hey, what do you think about this? Or, I remember KB was like, what does hell smell like? I mean, there's like important questions that you need to know and you need to help out. So, that's what it is. And usually a lot of times it's just kind of, in silence. You just sit there and you're up opposite each other and you just, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what do you think of a title? So it's just, you feed off of each other. The energy's there and you're kind of, working on the same goal. So.
I like that. Food. Accountability it provides,
Yes.
Like I've never done, well, I've done sprints with people sometimes, where it's like, but to me it's like 20 minutes, and you're not in the same place.
Right.
But every weekday, Georgia and I check in with each other.
Nice.
In the morning. Well, she's a morning person, I'm not, but check in about what we plan to do for the day. And then at the end of the day, we check in about whether we did it. Nice. And that helps me be accountable. And within that, there's sometimes discussion about, having trouble with this or what,
mm-hmm.
just even to just say it out loud to someone else sometimes makes
right.
it easier for you to figure it out yourself. Bartlett's been a good, like she checks me on, like, you're writing like an old lady, or
hey, I get that too.
Your characters weren't alive when that happened. But yeah, I've made lots of friends, so many, and it's nice to be able to have that variety of friendships,
mm-hmm.
and then variety of feedback and variety of what we all provide to each other. And so really, really familial. So I get to pull a hat question now, and y'all can rely on the hat questions, or you can chime in with questions of your own, because we will answer anything. We may not tell the truth, but we will answer anything. I actually am going to blindly draw from the hat, so you don't think that I'm like...
That's so honest of you. I love that.
Doesn't mean I won't throw it back.
Yeah. Make it up as you read it.
Okay, as a writer, what would you choose as your mascot or avatar? Wow.
Jeez.
I'm going to say honey badger. Honey badger don't care. I just kind of put my head down and just try and crank it out. I probably could use with more planning in advance. But it's, it's kind of this rhythm I've gotten into of a lack of rhythm. So, but I find that sometimes when I start to really plan something out, I kind of lose interest in it. And so to me, part of writing the book is figuring it out as I go along. That's part of the fun of writing to me, is to piece that puzzle together as I go. but sometimes it'd be helpful to have the picture on the box so I know where the pieces go in advance, because otherwise you're taking parts of it apart and having to repiece it back together. And so that's my answer. How about you kids?
Okay, so I'm going to say sloth, because I have been known to be horizontal on my couch for 9 hours at a time. And sometimes I'll write, and if I, I'm like totally horizontal and I can write that way. And then I can also move the laptop off of me so I can watch the TV full on. So or sometimes, like when it was really nice out, now it's wintertime, but I was out in the hammock and I would write in the hammock, or I would sleep in the hammock. Sometimes I worked from the hammock. So I'm going to go with sloth.
I think sloth would mean that you were just laying there.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Have you seen a sloth type? You need to see Zootopia.
The nails are in the way.
Amanda?
What about you?
I go at this a different way. I'd say giraffe, and it's nothing to do with my writing style. It's because my first book had a character in it, a young boy who had a cuddly toy giraffe called Tiny, and it sold very well. And for the next 2 years, everyone on social media tagged me in every picture of a giraffe they could find. Forever. And I don't dislike giraffes, but I don't love giraffes. But like literally for 2 years of my life, it was just wall to wall giraffes. And and still now and then I see it. And on my Facebook on this day, I see people who have tagged me and go, hey, there's giraffe. So I think, well, you have to lean into these things. So yeah, I'll go with a giraffe.
I think everyone should mail Amanda a giraffe right now.
I actually
Mail her pictures.
I made some cuddly toys. I got some cuddly toys made, and I did a giveaway. And they have a little white. In fact, I've got one, but it's packed. It's got a little white T-shirt on, and it says "Property of Henry Wright" written in crayon. And I think I made I did not make them. About 5 of them, and I kept one for me. And there was just so many people who wanted them. But yeah, it was really, really popular. And yeah, I became known as someone who loved giraffes, but I don't really care about them.
I love that. Okay, question from the audience, as opposed to the hat. What are your collections? Okay. So are your collections, preferably something you haven't told us about in the past, and how many of these things do you have? Like giraffes. That's what I'm thinking. That's what that means. Like, like things you collect that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Kris?
Oh, thank you. I think myself, what I collect. Well, I used to collect old cameras when I was really into photography, like the old-fashioned ones. I'm looking around the room now, and I can see several that are on my shelf. And I love collecting Doc Marten boots. I have a massive collection of Doc Martens. I love that. And then I have a huge collection of Westie, anything and all things that people send me, which I love, because my dog is a Westie. And so I don't have I didn't have a pet giraffe, so I get how you get that. But so I have a beautiful Westie, and a lot of people will send me ornaments or stuffies or T-shirts with Molly's on it. And I love it. I love all of that. So I have quite a few things I do collect. What about you, Carsen?
Go on, Carsen.
Cowboy hats, boots,
Yeah.
cowboy boots.
What? Dallas is very metropolitan. I don't remember the last time I saw someone in a hat. But let's see. Well, I've talked about, I have a complete obsession with notebooks and fountain pens, but that's not new. I do collect typewriters. I think you can see a few of them.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Back in my room here. But they're hard because, they take up a lot of space. I also collect Blackwing pencils. I just think they're cool. And they have this series that I subscribe to. This isn't one of them, but they put out one every quarter that's like a limited edition, and it's usually like named after a person or a thing. Like they had one for the anniversary of the women's right to vote, things like that, you know. So, I mean, obviously analog things. So when the apocalypse comes,
Right.
I will have ways to write or type, you know.
Do you have any ink ribbons for those typewriters?
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem with the typewriters. That's why I have the pencils, the fountain pens. Yeah, I knew someone was going to ask that question.
The typewriter is just for the zombie apocalypse, so you can throw it at them.
Bash them in the head.
I'm writing!
How about you, Amanda? Besides giraffes?
I don't collect very much because I'm quite a minimalist person, but I do collect notebooks, as all writers do. Because I think mainly because people buy you notebooks.
Right.
People go, "Oh, you're a writer. You're going to need to write stuff down." And I'm like, I type, but you know, then I do write things down. I quite like going to Disney. I collect Disney pins. Not as a pin collector, but it's more sort of when I go places, I like to collect something from there. So if I go to Disney, I generally pick up a pin. But if I go somewhere, like I went to Shibden Hall, where Anne Lister, Gentleman Jack Fame lives, I need to buy some piece of what we refer to as tat. So some piece of rubbish. So like a ruler. In fact, hang on. I will never use this. This is completely unnecessary, but I have a wooden Shibden Hall ruler that is just, it was 20p, and I thought, why not? So yeah, I generally buy some piece of useless artifact from a historical hall or something I go to.
We call those souvenirs.
Right.
Yes, or pieces of tat, because see, this is the thing. My wife will collect everything, and she will have. My wife is Swedish. She's lived over here for 11 years, and for the first 6 years, every time we went home to Sweden, her sister will go, "Oh, there's a box for you in the attic," and I'd be like, "The house is full," and it was just. And then we're moving now, so she was going to this stuff, and she was like, "Oh, look at this! This is my homework from when I was 7." I was like, "My mother doesn't even have pictures of me from when I was 7. Like we are a minimalist family. We threw everything out. My wife has everything." So yeah, I'm very much like this ruler that nobody needs is a piece of tat. This is rubbish. But Emma's like, it's a beloved memento. So yeah, it ends up in the house.
I like pins too. I put them on my, thing I keep my pencils in.
I used to have this massive refrigerator magnet collection. Everywhere I went, I used to like grab a magnet. So it like covered my whole refrigerator, but I looked at it.
I used to have specialist Monopoly sets, but I just did not play Monopoly enough to justify it. And then you go, "Oh, should we play a board game?" And obviously that board game must be Monopoly because I had 30 sets. And then you have the big debate about, should we play Oxford or the future one, or the one which has got credit cards, or the one, and it just became a big deal. And in the end, it was like, I think during the entire time I had those Monopoly sets, I don't think I actually played them or Monopoly at all, because it just became this huge discussion. And yeah, well, what do we have? And then sort of going through, I don't remember buying that, and I gave up.
Okay, so I have a question. It's not from the hat. So all of us write some different things. Like, yes, Kris, you've written romance primarily, but you've also written some erotic romance and first and third person. And then Amanda, you've written mystery, and and so what do you like to write the most?
I see, although I do write romance, I don't really consider what I write as romance. It has a romance in it, but most of my stories are sort of character-driven stories. They're about two people having to overcome something or overcome preconceived conceptions about each other generally. So I think my guilty pleasure of writing is trying to write what I want to write, and then also having a romance in it, and then being like, I taught you a lesson about something whilst I gave my opinion on something whilst talking about romance. So growing up, I wrote was predominantly about homelessness, because my wife said, you could never write a homeless romance novel. And I was like, I will.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. And Fitting In, which I wrote last year, which was a finalist in the Amazon Kindle Storyteller Award, was about autism. So it's, for me, my guilty pleasure is about sort of writing about some interesting characters or story or sort of sub theme, and also making a good romance about it as well.
I like that. So it's like a bonus book.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think lots of people can just read them as a romance and enjoy that and not get anything else out of it. And I do get people, especially with Fitting In, because most recently, people who say like, oh, this character's like me and I do these things and I didn't realize that I wasn't alone. And that's just really lovely to sort of hear that from people, and to sort of, you know, reach different people on different levels with one book is really lovely.
I like that. Kris, how about you? What's your favorite thing?
I love first person. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say guilty pleasure.
my guilty pleasure is I love cheeseball romances. I mean, I love to read them. It's a good escapism, so I like to write them as well. I like characters. Now I like characters that are flawed. Before I was like writing the perfect romance, the perfect characters, you know, everything just fit perfectly. And so the more books that I write, and as I grow as a writer, I like to add flaws. And I like to drop in the different flaws. And but for me, it's first person and contemporary romance. I mean, I like steamy romance. I like pushing it just a little bit and pushing a little bit more. And so then I finally wrote my first full length, and that comes out this summer. And I don't know how I feel about it yet, because it's in the middle of edits. So once we're done with everything, then I'll be like, okay, I love this or I don't love this. I have to wait on that one. But for now, first person, contemporary romance, flawed characters, love it. Sweet, cheesy.
So to me, it's like whatever I'm not writing is my favorite. like I'll finish suspense and I'm like, that plot just really wore me out. I can't wait to just write a contemporary romance, you know, without a huge plot driven suspense. And then I'm like, where do I go with this? I know. I'm a dead body in here.
I know. When I wrote Temptation, that's how it was. It was like I couldn't end it. There was like really no angst. It was just about two people getting together. And I told my editor, Ashley, I was like, I don't know how to end this book. I have no idea how to end it. So I just kept writing. And so she just said, just stop writing, and then we'll go through it. But yeah, when you don't have anything to resolve, it's hard to stop. It's hard to just like, okay, let's conclude this and let's, you know. So that's why it's always good to have something else.
I get accused of writing slow burn romances quite a lot. And it's like, no, it's just once they've said I love you, or they, you know, have demonstrated they love each other, I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. I'm doing other things. So it's like, and you need conflict. So I'm literally like, okay, conflict, resolution, done. And the people are like, oh, it's slow burn. It's like, no, it's just that 90% of the book is them not being together. The 5% of the book is them like categorically being together. And then I've got stuff to do. So yeah, I can't. I wish I had the skill set to be able to write. That's, you know, that would be wonderful. Sometimes I go, oh, how many words? Oh, okay, I need to go back and add something, because I don't add to the end. I need to add something else. I think, right, I need another conflict point or something. So I'd love to be able to do that.
Well, I think we have a solution, is that Kris is going to just send us her extra words.
Yeah. Well, we could just send it to Kris. Yeah. We'll go like, well, we're bored.
Wait.
Fluff this out a bit.
Yeah, could you just add another 10,000 to the end of this? Could they just be really happy? That'd be lovely.
I could do happy stuff. I don't know that I can give you a lot of words, because my books are pretty small. They're pretty like 70,000, 72,000. That's
mine are way smaller than that.
You can round out. We'll get you set up. You'll fix our books. It'll be great.
Yeah. What did I just agree to?
Yeah. So here is a question from the audience, and it is, how did you get your start in writing?
Carsen, you take this one.
I'll take this one first. So in 2007, so I made it my New Year's resolution that I was going to write a book that year. And so a friend of mine at the time said, well, I'll do that too. And so we'll go to a coffee shop once a week and we'll bring what we've written and, you know, like trade chapters back and forth, like a literary salon. And, but not that fancy. Because Gertrude Stein wasn't there. And anyway, I digress. But so that lasted about 3 weeks. And then I showed up with a chapter and she did not. And then I showed up with a chapter and she did not. And it was like, okay, this isn't working. Like I can just do this on my own. So I wrote a book. I wrote TrueLesbianLove.com. And then I went to GCLS in 2007, that summer for the first time. The book was like half written and there were all these publishers there. And so I sat on a panel and heard all of them speak. And I decided, well, I'm going to finish this book and submit it to Bold Strokes. And so I did. And so by the end of the year, I submitted it. And then that's it. That happened. And that was the beginning of this wild and crazy ride. It was published in 2008.
I wrote fan fiction because I had a long commute. I lived in, I don't know if you know the UK very well. I lived in Hastings, which is a seaside town south of London. I commuted into London, and that train journey is very long. And I thought I'll write fan fiction. And basically, I had to get up at, I don't know, hideous o'clock, 4:30 in the morning to get into work because I ran a marketing agency and I had clients in London, so I could, you know, I had to go whenever they wanted me to come into London, generally for a 9 o'clock meeting because they hated me. So I'd sit on the train and I'd write a chapter and I'd post it on fanfiction.net or archive or whatever. And I didn't really think about it. It was just sort of time wasting and it was just sort of brain cleansing during a very dull train journey. And I was, oh God, I'd been in London late one evening with my wife. I think we'd gone to the theatre or something and we're on the way back. And my wife is a qualified librarian, loves books, loves everything to do with books. She's an author now. And we're sitting opposite each other on the train and I have a Facebook message from a publisher saying, I really like your story, Flight, and I'd like to publish it. And I was like, oh, look at that scam. And my wife just sort of said, like, are you going to do anything? I was like, no, I'm going to have a nap. It's quite late. I've had a long day. And she was just stared at me and said, well, you've just been approached by a publisher. I was like, I don't know. So then I Googled this person and it was a publisher. And I thought, oh, I'll ignore it. Anyway, my wife is furious because I've just been like given this option and I just abandoned it. I was like, I run a business. I'm busy. I don't have time. And I don't know what all this is about. Anyway, about a week later, she'd been misering and lovingly, obviously. And I had a phone call with the publisher and I was like, you know, why not? I don't have to do anything. I just go, there's a manuscript. Because that's what I thought it would do. I just thought I'd go, there you go, there's the book. And it didn't work like that. There was this editing thing and covers and all kinds of things. Anyway, who was I to know? But yeah, basically I wrote fan fiction because I was bored on a train and I was very lucky that a publisher contacted me out of the blue. And yeah, after that, I started realizing that I really quite enjoyed writing and I didn't just have to do it on the train. So, yeah. Which is great now because I don't commute. So quite problematic.
You're like, I have to get on a train. I can't write unless I'm
in COVID, that would be incredibly difficult. Sitting there with a mask on. I have to go to Scotland and back because I've got a deadline.
I really miss writing at places outside of my house.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't. My wife loves it. She always goes to the coffee shop. She's like, should we go to Costa or should we go to Starbucks? And I'm like, no, there are people and noise and food. Like you're just there and there's all these muffins and you're like, well, I can't think of that word. I'm just going to go get a chocolate muffin. Yeah, that's really dangerous.
Well, there's muffins and there's eavesdropping.
That's true.
And the Starbucks I used to go to, I think that it was like, I'm pretty sure it was people listed it on their business card as their place of business. Like, I saw a guy one time walk in with a 27-inch iMac, and he set it on the table, and then he made a bunch of phone calls, and I discerned that he was running a moving company. And he had his coffee, and he made a bunch of phone calls, and then he shut it down and left. I'm like, dude, they make laptops.
He was there for the free Wi-Fi.
And some other time I saw this, there was a pastor, and he was giving premarital counseling to this couple.
No.
They were talking like about had they decided where they'd spend holidays with which set of parents and how they'd manage money. And I listened to all of that.
See, I would go if it was like that, but it's all just boring mums talking about whether or not little Tabitha is able to use the potty, and I don't care.
Well, you need to come to...
Yeah, I need to go to a better one. I mean, the only time it ever got interesting was when me and my wife turned up, and there was like a sort of like little corner that you could sit in. That was like a good place. So we used to sit there, and we turned up a little bit late, and there was a woman there, and we were like, oh, we'll sit somewhere else. And then the next time we went, she came in and looked, and honestly, I could have caught fire from this look, because I was obviously in her seat. And then it twigged to me that she always sits there, and it's just recently we've been coming in taking her seat. And then one day she obviously got there early to usurp us, which worked. But then the next day we got there early just because, you know, for no reason, and we usurped her, and she was furious. So then I was like, tomorrow we're going to get here 15 minutes early. And that went on for about 2 weeks, and that was the most joy I had. But when I said to Emma, I said, I don't think there's any point in me going to the coffee shop, because the only reason I'm going is to mess with this woman. That is the only reason I'm there. I don't get any more work done there, and it's just fun. I see her come in, and I'm like, because we were just gradually getting there earlier and earlier and earlier over the course of 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm gonna have to set the alarm for 6 o'clock tomorrow. But anyway, Kris, how did you start?
How did you get started writing?
Well, I've always loved to write. I mean, when I was a kid, I found an award I got when I was 11, a creative writing award. So I've always enjoyed it, and I went to college for just creative writing, but I never did anything with it. It's like I graduated, and then I ended up going into sales, and so I never really, I mean, that's not true. The first job I had was actually, I was an editor for a birth announcement company. So you would think I would have learned a lot of words and names, but instead it's always Jennifer, but always Jennifer. So then I just, like here in the Midwest, we don't have a lot of, you know, Kansas City is it's kind of a small town, small city. And years ago, we didn't really have a lot of LGBT anything, no bookstores or anything like that. And I didn't really know that there was Lesbic. And I didn't know about it until it was like 2012 or 11, 2012, I think, and then my parents got me a Kindle. And so then I was able to find and get what I wanted as quickly as possible. So I just gobbled them all up, and I go, you know what, I could totally write a Lesbic. I could totally write a romance with 2 women leads instead of, you know, straight. I could do this. So I did it.
And she went on to write many more.
Yes, and many more in the future, hopefully.
Yes.
More, yes.
I have to confess, I've spent a lot of time during this chat trying to figure out how to change your name to Jennifer on that little thing.
Jennifer, I know. That's so funny. It's like several people have told me that you have a lot of Jennifers. There must be somebody important in your life named Jennifer.
Okay, that's hilarious. Okay, here's another question. Would you ever write a main character who has a visible disability?
I would need to know. I'd researched it properly. I've written a few with invisible disabilities, so people who are on the spectrum and so on. I definitely would. It would need to be the right story, the right character, and not just for the sake of a box ticking exercise. Right. It would need to be, you know, relevant.
Right. No, I'm the same way. I agree with that. Yeah.
If it was the right vehicle to move a point I was trying to make, or the storyline, or the theme, yeah, definitely. But definitely a lot of research.
Yeah.
that's my biggest fear, is always getting something wrong, like writing about a type or something that I don't have the experience on, and I didn't like reach out and do enough research. That's my biggest fear.
It's hard to know when you've done enough, you know.
Right,
So.
exactly.
And sometimes people's opinions are different as well. So, you know, I know people who've had sensitivity readers. They've had like 3 sensitivity readers, and they've all gone, you've done a great job, and they published a book, and then someone leaves a review and that person's destroyed. It's like, well, that's one person's opinion, and you know, you did everything you could. Sometimes it's just very difficult, but that wouldn't stop me from writing a character with a disability. Just sometimes as an author, you have to suck it up that people don't like you.
It's true. You know, once the book goes out into the world, it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
You know? That's kind of how I feel. That's how I've resolved. So let's see, we've got a little time. So we've got time for like one more. So could a reader ever influence your next book idea with a suggestion of their own?
Yeah, I wrote a novella with my wife called Ice Cream Wars. I was at Elcon on a panel, and I was talking about ice queens, and Claire Lydon was hosting it, and she just burst out laughing and said, "I thought you said ice cream." And I was like, well, we could have a story about ice cream if you want. And later on, I was by a table of readers, and they said, you should write something about ice cream. And very quickly we started talking about stuff, and we came up with the idea of someone who owned a very, very exclusive ice cream shop, and someone who owned like a little ice cream, you know, selling it on a bike kind of thing, and how that bike would be parked outside the posh, it ended up being a gelato store, and everyone's like, you have to write it, and me and my wife said, okay, we'll write it as a novella, and we released it the next year. So yeah, definitely, if people have ideas and stuff, I'm always open to it. I won't guarantee that I'm gonna, you know, write a story about it, but yeah, I'm always open for new ideas.
So I mean, it's hard because you know, I like to feel like the ideas are organic. And so I feel more invested in them if they came naturally to me. But every once in a while, someone will say something about a character that really resonated with them, and I have used the character as a main character in something else. Because if a secondary character really resonates with someone that much, maybe they can carry their own story. That's probably the instance I can think of that's most applicable. How about you, Kris?
My fear, I mean, yes, I would. My fear is that that they might suggest something that's already been done and I don't know about it, and maybe subconsciously it's been said, you know, to me, and so I fear that could happen, that I could take somebody else's idea. And so, but yeah, I agree with the secondary characters. I've had a lot of people want secondary characters to have their own story, and that's great because, like you said, it's organic. It came from me. And so I think I could make it work. But as far as suggestions, I guess I would have to weigh it. Most people don't give me suggestions. I don't know if that's
They're giving them all to me and Amanda.
Yeah, okay.
I get them all the time. Nobody's telling me to write a certain story. So
well, I think it depends. I mean, I get some people go, I'd love you to write this story. They literally write it, and I'm like, you've just written the story. You could go and write that.
I did have someone send me an email with like 3 pages of an entire plot, and I said, that is a great idea, and you should write that because
yeah, I've had that a few times. Yeah, I've had that a few times, and I've been like, this is your intellectual property. I appreciate you're giving it to me, but like, you obviously have a far better understanding of this than I do because you're telling me everything. But if someone sort of gives me an idea about, I'd really love to hear a story about a zookeeper, then I'd be like, okay, and that might sort of percolate and potentially come to fruition. But yeah, it depends what it is.
Well, that is our time. Thank you, audience, for being so interactive and fun with us. We had a blast today. And just really quickly remind everyone what your book is. Amanda?
It's Detour to Love, and it's about 2 people who have to share a journey to Tokyo, and they take an instant dislike to one another and eventually have to work together, as is always the best.
Awesome. Travel and fun. Yes. And Kris?
My book is Scent, and it is about a a chocolatier and a artist / business owner.
So I already closed my iPad, but it's Spirit of the Law, and it's a hard-nosed prosecutor and a woo-woo medium. And it comes out in February. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.